Hello, everyone. Happy Friday the 13th. In today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, Friday the 13th, part 1 and part 2. But first, we'll talk about what we've been watching recently, / reading, I guess, for me. What have you been watching recently?
Well, we went to see Megan together.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. We are also prepping for our next episode. So we've been watching a lot of snowy horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched The Thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched Dead Snow is what we watched. We watched another one yesterday, didn't we?
We watched Friday the 13th,
Oh,
part 2.
we watched part 2.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Other than that, I haven't really. I watched another episode of Wednesday. For some reason, it's taking me a long time to get through that show.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't really watched much other than that recently.
I've watched almost all of the stuff that we have on our list for the Snowden horror, which I won't reveal right now because I've watched so much of it. But I watched The Thing and Dead Snow like you have, and then I watched Unfriended and The Forest, and I also watched one other thing, but I can't remember what it is right now. It's not important, obviously. I didn't really have that strong of feelings about it if I can't remember what it was. But I also have been reading The Mist by Stephen King, which I might have said last episode, and in that case, I'm a little embarrassed because it's kind of short, but I've been busy lately.
So you've seen the movie already, right?
Yeah, I have.
How's the book?
The book is, I am on page 22.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's great. I love Stephen King. His writing is so genius, and the way he words things, he is such a wordsmith. I mean, you could put any one of his works in front of me, and I would be like, that's it. That is the most important thing in my life right now, because it's so good, and I love it so much. But I'd say, I mean, I'm very interested to see how the book is. I'm sure it's going to be way better than the movie. Not that the movie was, like, horrendous or anything. But it was not my favorite. It was just like,
right.
Like it felt like there was just a lot of empty space, and they were just like kind of. But I kind of liked it because of the kind of movie it is and the kind of story it was. But I don't know. I can understand why some people might not like it as much. I liked it. I might not watch it ever again, but I liked it the first time I watched it, and it scared my dad. And my dad's not a big horror fan. We are. At the time of recording, we are on the 10th of January, and I have watched 8 or 9 horror movies this year so far.
You're almost at one a day.
I know. I'm kind of crushing it, you guys.
Are you going to keep up that pace?
Yeah, I think I am, and I'm definitely going to keep up with it for the 2023 horror movies, unlike I did with 2022 horror movies. So
let's set a goal.
Oh my gosh. A goal for how many horror movies? Oh, shoot. Okay, let me think.
365.
No. That is unattainable. That's unattainable.
Okay. 200.
I'm going to say... That's too easy. Let's say 297.
209.
297.
That's a lot of horror movies.
It is a lot of horror movies, but maybe I'll beat you with how many I've seen.
Okay, so what I hear is we're wagering something.
We're battling, yes.
We are going to see who can watch more horror movies.
Oh gosh, okay.
So let's do we'll do this. Every 3 months we will give an update on how many movies we've both watched. And this is completely improv, so we'll come up with something to wager.
Yes,
but
we need to think about
either
it.
Like somebody, we get to pick a movie someone has to watch, or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll have to figure it out.
Yes.
I'm behind, so
yeah. How many have you seen this year so far?
Like 5, maybe 6. So what I'm hearing is we're agreeing to the terms of the wager.
You don't work as much as I do. This is
Excuse
hard.
Me?
You have like full days off. Sometimes I only have 1 day a week off.
You're the one who's saying you're going to watch 297 horror movies.
Did you say 87?
97.
Okay, yes. That's what I thought. 297.
297.
Yes, but you have more time to watch movies than I do.
And I'm behind. You have the
You're behind by like 4 movies, and it's only the beginning of the year.
All right. So do you accept the terms of this wager?
Yes, I accept. Okay. Knowing full well that I will probably lose, I'll accept.
Well, I'm going to set my goal at 298 horror movies.
Oh my gosh.
We'll see what happens.
Oh my gosh.
tune back in 2.5 months for an update on how many horror movies we've watched.
Truly.
Or follow us both on Letterboxd. You can follow me at Plays at Night. You can follow Anna at
Anna Bookamer, Bookamer, I think is what it is.
And we have our horror movie podcast Letterboxd also, which is just THM Podcast, the horror movie podcast. And that's where we put all our lists. And any of the ratings on there is just we split the difference between our ratings, rounded up or down based off how we felt about the movie. So follow us over there. And while we're at it, you might as well follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and check out our Patreon for more exclusive content.
All of those are just the Horror Movie Podcast.
Yep, our links in the description for everything. I think there should be links in the description if you're listening on like Spotify and Stitcher and all of that also.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Friday the 13th. Oh, well, slow down. Let's talk about Megan real quick.
Oh, yes, we have to.
So I had such mixed feelings about this movie because when we saw the first trailer, I was like, that's going to be horrible.
Right.
I'm here for it. Like, I want to see that movie. And then I saw another trailer and I was like, this actually might be kind of good. Like,
oh, really?
I see what they're going for. It doesn't look good in the trailer, but I'm like, if they can execute this, like, I can see this being kind of creepy. And then the more trailers came out, I was just like, this is going to be so bad.
Yeah.
And then we went to go see it. And while I was waiting to go see it, I looked up the score on Rotten Tomatoes, and it had a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Are you serious? I didn't
from
know that.
critics and a 75% from audience. So I was like, all right, they did it. They pulled it off. Let's see how it is. It was bad.
It was not a good.
It was not just like this isn't a good horror movie. It wasn't a good movie at all.
Yeah, it was just a bad movie.
It's not very long. It's under 2 hours. And I checked my phone like 3 times because I was ready to leave. Like it was slow. It was uninteresting. It wasn't scary.
Right. Even the deaths that happened were just kind of like.
At no point was I scared. Also, part of that is they give away the scariest deaths in the trailers.
Yeah, true.
So, I'm talking about trailers. So, if you haven't seen the trailers, skip ahead a little bit. But she kills the little boy in the forest.
Which that actually messed with me.
Totally,
I don't like it.
No, of course,
as we've established previously, I do not like any form of harm coming to children in movies.
But it's not scary.
But it's not.
You know what I mean?
Scary.
Like
it's
not.
Like
it's not scary.
unsettling.
It's right. Exactly. But it's not scary. And then there's the pressure washer in the shed.
I expected that to be so much worse.
Yeah, it wasn't near as bad as I expected. But that's also in the trailer. Pretty much all the scary stuff is in the trailer. When she's playing the piano and she's like, duh, like that's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like
the dancing is in the trailer, which is the scariest part.
Gave away way too much
when she goes.
And I don't know. It's making a lot of money. Like, there was a 6-year-old in our theater.
I know, that's right.
Can we talk about that for a second? Okay,
there was
look.
An actual child
Parents,
at the theater when we saw.
The internet exists. It's the thing. Google.com. Search movies before you take your children to them.
Yes. I did not see them leave, but Luke informed me that they did leave.
They got up and
through.
left halfway through the movie, right after she kills the little boy. They got up and little boy. He's a teenager.
Right.
He's like 13.
No.
Yeah, because they even mentioned that he's too old for the group that they're in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's like, how old is he?
No, but then
and she's like, oh yeah, he hit his growth spurt early. Haha.
Yeah.
And it's clearly a mom cannot handle her child, and that's why he's there. But he's like at least 13, I think, or I'm sorry, at most 13.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
Oh, at most 13?
Yeah, he's at most 13.
Okay, I get that.
Maybe he's 11 or 12, but he's too old for the group because the group is like 6-year-olds.
No.
How old is the main girl?
I think she's 11. Isn't she 11? She's 10 or 11.
She's an age.
She's an age that we do not know.
You're right. She's older than 6.
She's way older than 6. Not way.
Split
like she's
the
not
difference.
like 60.
We'll call her 9.
Okay.
This is the most important discussion we've ever had.
That's true. This is what the people come here to listen to.
After the boy dies, they get up and leave the theater, and it's like, what
How did you not know what kind of
doing?
movie this was?
First of all, the trailers are very obvious that
Yes.
this is a horror movie. And second of all, what? Look up the movie.
Right, and it's also not the first, like, off-putting thing that happens in the movie. There's, like, Megan is, like, staring down everyone and looks like she's literally going to snap at any second.
Yeah.
And there's, like, creepy music.
Yeah,
and,
I
like,
mean, I could see a kid not picking up on some of that stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But as
But
soon
the
as
parents,
right.
you know, you would think I mean, not to bash these people in any way, because I think we've all gone to movies that we didn't know anything about before. But, like, especially you, Mr. I don't watch trailers.
Well, yeah, but I have an idea of what I'm going to see, and I'm not taking my child with me. If I was taking a child with me, I would make sure to look up the movie.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But
Megan,
you know.
not for children.
No, yep.
It is rated R for a reason.
Oh, it's rated R?
Yeah. I'm pretty
Oh
sure
my
it's
gosh.
just because of language. I mean, there's some
Oh.
unsettling scenes in there, but
Yeah.
I think if I remember right, there's quite a few
Yeah.
F-bombs. So it's barely R, but it is
Right,
definitely
yeah,
a rated
for sure.
R movie.
I thought the acting was fine in this movie. There was nobody that I
Yeah.
was like, you're terrible. You're the worst person ever.
It was really just like story and pacing.
Yeah,
and
definitely. The
there's
pacing is what
some
threw me
weird
off.
scenes in
Yes.
this movie.
There are some very strange scenes.
Megan sings
Oh, I forgot.
Titanium in this movie.
She sings titanium in this movie, and it's like,
We were all laughing.
yes.
No one else in the theater was laughing.
Yeah, and it was
How
kind
do
of
you not-
obnoxious
How do you
of us.
not get this?
How do you
This
not
is
laugh at
so
that?
incredibly ridiculous.
I know. It's so bad.
Megan, you can pass on it.
Yeah, you can. I
It's
mean,
not-
honestly, no. You cannot pass on it. You have to see it. It's funny.
But it's not that funny.
True, but it is
Like,
funny, though.
let's talk Black Christmas 2019.
Oh, true.
It is a worse movie,
Yeah.
but it is way
Very
funnier.
funny, yeah.
Like, if you gave me the option and I had to watch Megan or Black Christmas again, I would watch Black Christmas
yes,
again.
absolutely.
Like,
agree.
and Megan is leaps and bounds a better movie than Black
Yeah.
Christmas 2019. But I would take that one over Megan.
Yeah, for sure.
Any day.
Yeah, definitely. There were some scary parts in Megan too, though. Like, it wasn't like just a total
Kind of.
flop.
They attempted them, but
Yeah.
I don't know. At no point was I really scared by it.
There was a
And
scene.
even in the scene where they're like hooking her up to the machine,
Mhm.
that's in the trailer too. So
That's
like
right.
every single like potentially suspenseful scene, the most suspenseful for me in this movie had to do with the pet.
With the oh,
Yeah,
true.
which
That
I won't
was
say
sad,
any more
yeah.
than that, but something happens
was-
there, and that
yeah.
was the most suspenseful
Yeah,
thing for
for
me,
sure.
and that was not in the movie.
I think I was just scared that she was gonna and near the end there's a scene where there's a bunch of kids in a room because they're gonna like do this big unveiling
Oh,
for Megan,
right.
and I thought she was gonna come in and kill
my
them
gosh.
all, and that was terrifying to me.
Yeah.
I literally was like, I need to leave. Like, I can't watch her kill all these
totally.
kids.
No, I think child massacre is still frowned upon in most circles, so
yes.
not something really for entertainment.
Yeah, nope, absolutely.
But that was Megan.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty.
think I give it a 2.
Yeah, I think I gave it a 1.5. Maybe
Yeah.
I gave it a 2. 1.5
It's right
to 2.
around there.
I was surprised that you gave it a 2. That seems generous for you.
I mean, 4 out of 10 is pretty bad. 2 out of 5, 4 out of 10. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like it sounds worse when you say 4 out of 10 than 2 out
really,
of 5.
I think it sounds better.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a 2 out of 5 for me is not a good movie
Yeah,
still.
okay.
Like
sense.
once you get 2.5 is my dividing point. Like
Mhm.
2.5 was like decent movie.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
3 is like good.
Mhm.
3.5 is really good. 4 is a great movie.
Mhm.
4.5 is amazing, and 5
Mhm.
is some of the best movies I've ever watched, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then same thing going down. So like 2 is like it was bad, but it wasn't
Mhm.
like horrible.
Mhm.
Like you said, the acting was good.
Right.
The effects were fine.
Yeah, actually, the
Megan
effects were pretty
looks like an android.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
and at no point in the movie did I feel like it looked weird or strange
Yeah,
or
definitely.
anything. So like 2 is like it's
Mhm.
okay. It's not very good.
Mhm.
And then like 1.5 is bad,
Mhm.
and then 1 is really,
Really,
bad,
really
and
bad,
then
yeah.
a half star is one of the worst
Like
movies I've ever
garbage
seen.
movie.
Yeah.
Yes,
So like
absolutely.
I feel like a 2
So
is
Scoob.
I mean, I haven't seen Scoob.
Scoob?
So.
No stars for Scoob. If you've seen Scoob, leave us a comment. Let me know if you hate it as much as I do. Worst movie
Anna
ever.
hasn't even rated Scoob on Letterboxd because she cannot bring herself to give it a half star, which is the lowest rating you can give it.
Worst movie ever. I know this is the horror movie podcast, but
well, it sounds like it was a horrifying experience for you.
Horrible. Worst thing I've ever seen.
I remember you were excited to see that. You were like, oh, I want to see Scoob.
Yes. And I literally was so disappointed. It was like, it's like an hour and a half long, and it felt like it was literally 5 hours long. I was like, what is happening? It's terrible. I could talk about it forever, but we should probably...
it's a kids movie, right?
Don't talk to me about that.
Oh, okay.
I feel passionately. Okay, moving on from Scoob, let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about. Friday the 13th.
Which is today.
Yay!
Today is Friday the 13th.
Not today, but
I mean, today as of listening to this.
Yes.
We will be doing something on Friday the 13th. Hopefully. We have to. It's Friday the 13th.
True.
We'll have to figure that out. But we only get 2 Friday the 13th this year.
Yeah.
It is in January and October.
Oh,
which falls so perfectly.
Yes.
So we're I mean, October's a long ways away, but hopefully we'll do something special for Friday the 13th in October for the podcast because, like, come on.
Right, come on.
How can
basically handed to us. Come on.
So, but for our first Friday the 13th of the year, we watched Friday the 13th Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah.
And you have a synopsis for us for Part 1?
Yes, I do. And this was, I just want to mention, my first time watching the first one. And I don't know how exactly I feel about it, to be honest. There's like, we'll get into that later. First, synopsis. Okay, Friday the 13th, 1980, not the newer remake. As summer is beginning, a group of counselors arrive at Camp Crystal Lake in New Jersey to get the grounds ready for the arrival of the campers, which will be in the next week. Everything starts out fine when, seemingly for no reason, the counselors start disappearing almost unnoticed by the other counselors. Hey, first thing I have to say about that, why do they not notice that the other counselors are missing? Like, that one girl doesn't show up, which is like, they're like, okay, she's just a flake, you know? But like,
right.
It's like,
oh, right, because she gets killed first, right? Yeah.
And she doesn't even arrive to the camp.
Yep.
But then
so the movie starts with them traveling to the camp.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the movie actually starts way back in the past when Camp Crystal Lake is very much open and running, and 2 teenage counselors get murdered. So that shuts down the camp, and then it's been dormant since then, which is like it hasn't been a significant amount of time, but it's been a few years. Yeah. And they're reopening it, so people are coming to town, and the townspeople are like not happy that they're doing this. They're like warning them. They call it Camp Blood. Right. You find out that a boy drowned there earlier before the murders happened, and they decided to keep the camp open anyways. Like it's scary for the locals, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And all of the counselors and the people running the camp are just like, yeah, whatever. This is, and it's so funny to me that this is happening. Like, there's not exactly a lot of money in summer camp.
Yeah, definitely. It's like
why would you pick this location? Right. I assume they probably got the land for dirt cheap.
Oh, definitely. Because of
a lot of people have died there.
Yes.
But also, like,
it's super run down.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, true. Just go somewhere else.
Like, if you want to start a summer camp.
In part 2, we see that there is a camp right next to their camp.
Yeah. So like, I don't understand that. But so Camp Crystal Lake actually gives me so much Twin Lakes Friends Camp vibes.
Yes.
So I grew up going to Twin Lakes Friends Camp,
and
that camp is like almost laid out shot for shot the same exact way. Like the only difference is that it's the Twin Lakes is up on a hill, and you have to like go down to get to the beach. But if the beach was right there, it's like the kitchen is right next to the lake, and the cabins even look similar, and like it looks so much like Friends Camp.
Definitely.
I think I even looked up a map at once, and it's not the same layout, but it's like kind of close. Like if you moved a few things around,
it just gives you the same feeling, which I bet watching it. I mean, makes you just a bit more like into it because you're just like,
oh, definitely,
like super invested. Like it's like you've been there before.
Yeah, well, and
know?
then when you go back to camp, because I watched this for the first time when I was like probably 13 or 14,
sure, yeah.
and then going back to camp, it's like, this is kind of
I'm
Camp
kind of
Crystal Lake.
sketched out. Yeah.
Let me not tell the kids about it though.
Imagine you're at like Bible camp and you're telling the kids.
telling the kids about Friday the 13th. I mean, we did have some good horror stories.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Clearly,
that wasn't one of them.
No, it definitely. This movie for sure gives me camp vibes, like it's counselor training day.
Yeah.
I did a lot of summer camps. In that way, it's almost nostalgic a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. For me. Well, and a lot of people went to summer camp, so it's like I feel like everyone that's been to summer camp can kind of like grasp onto it a little bit more because it's not like, you know, not everyone has been to, you know, Stu Macher's house, you know, like it's not, it's so personable, you know, because like so many people go camping or go to a summer camp at some point in their lives.
Yeah, I which that's definitely part of the reason I was actually, so I watched this a long time ago and I haven't seen it since. I never really saw a reason to rewatch it.
Yeah.
And I tried out part 2, but I ended up not finishing it for some reason, and I just never went back to it. Honestly, I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I think that's good. I think it deserves that, especially because, and for the record, as I say many times, spoiler alert, this movie's from 1980. It is over 40 years old. If you have not seen it, it is on you at this point. Yeah. So the killer is Mrs. Voorhees. Right. It's not Jason, which I did not know that watching the...
That's a common misconception.
Wait a second. I didn't know that because I watched Scream first.
Oh, yes. Common
thanks, Wes Craven.
I know, true.
Spoiling a 15-year-old movie.
Literally.
So I guess I did know that. Yeah. But... they're very intentional about not showing you the killer in this movie. Yeah. And then at the end, Mrs. Voorhees shows up, who then we find out is Jason Voorhees' mom, who used to help out at the camp, and this kid that drowned was her son, Jason Voorhees, and she's the one who killed the 2 people. Which I don't remember if she says that, but if she tells the
that she
Alice
killed those 2 people.
One. Yeah, I don't know if she.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't say that.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
Like,
because she does. She talks about. She doesn't directly say that she killed them, but she is like, the counselors are the reason my son died, and like something had to be done about them.
Like, that and getting the camp shut down, and then she is clearly very traumatized because she's telling the main character Alice, she's like telling her that it's her fault her son drowned. Yeah, like this was years ago.
Yeah. She's going through some mental stuff.
Her performance, Mrs. Voorhees, is phenomenal.
Yeah, she did really well.
And her performance alone in that last like 10 minutes of the movie, in my opinion, is worth the 3 stars all by itself.
Yeah, for sure.
The rest of the movie is meh.
Give and take.
It's a 80s slasher movie. Yeah. Like, there's some creative kills in it though, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the arrow through the bed is, and
the spear through the bed. Is that what you're talking about?
I thought no. The arrowhead through Kevin Bacon's neck.
Spear.
Are you talking about the one when they got speared to the bed?
Yeah.
That's part 2.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
so
not.
In part 1, Kevin Bacon and his girl go off to the cabin together, and then she leaves, and then he's laying in bed by himself, and Mrs. Voorhees is under the bed and pushes an arrow up through the back of the bed and through his neck.
Is it really part 2 that happens, or is it just
so that's in part 1, and then in part 2 they get stabbed with the spear. Because part 2 is when the guy jumps out of the woods with the spear. And it's like, and to scare him.
My bad. Yeah. I was just so excited to talk about that kill. I jumped the gun.
Yeah, you did. We'll talk about that kill part 2.
Ignore that I said that.
But for a second I thought that was Scream, but I'm pretty sure it's Saw. I watched a documentary, and I'm pretty sure it was on the Saw franchise, not Scream, Friday the 13th. Hold up. This is not making any sense. I watched a documentary. I initially thought it was about Friday the 13th, but I'm second guessing myself, and I think it's about Saw now. But he was talking about how the writers were just sitting around like talking about how you can kill people more creatively.
Oh,
and how
sure.
he was just like would catch himself thinking randomly about
Oh my
creative ways
gosh.
to kill people. And
Yes.
he's like, it kind of messes with you, honestly.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to like make sure you stay very grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of my life, I just sat around thinking about how to kill people all day.
Yeah,
And
I've
then-
always said that if you have serial killer thoughts, you either become a writer of some kind or an actual serial killer, because you just think about like that kind of stuff. And it's like, I mean, Stephen King kind of gives me those vibes.
Yeah,
not
I
gonna
mean,
lie.
it kind of makes me wonder, like,
Yeah, that's
about
what I'm
all the
talking
people
about.
because you go to some
You
horror
come up
movies
with-
and the kills are like, there was nothing, like
Yeah.
they got shot, they got
Right,
stabbed,
yeah.
like there's nothing really
But there's
that special
such
about it.
like
But then there's other ones that
sadistic
like
things
you're
that
like,
are
oh my
like,
gosh, like how did you come up with
yeah,
that?
why did you think about adding that to the script?
Yeah. But no, I mean, so what did you rate Friday the 13th?
Oh gosh, like 2, maybe 2. It
2?
was 2 or 2.5, 2 to 3. I don't remember. I took off a full half point or a whole point because of something that I feel very strongly about. In this movie, there is a scene where all of the counselors that are still alive, which I believe is all of them except for the one that got killed on the way there, are in a cabin, and there's a snake, and they're like, oh, there's a snake in here, and they're like trying to get rid of it, and this guy just takes a machete and whacks it twice. And while we're watching it, I'm like, that's a real snake. He just killed that snake. And Luke was like, no, there's no way. And he looked it up.
Yeah, because you don't kill animals on movies.
I know. And he looked it up, and it was a real snake.
They for sure
just
killed a snake.
a
Yeah.
real snake. And I have big beef with that. That made me cry. I actually
You
cried.
did give it 3 stars. So maybe you were gonna give it 3.5.
Yeah.
But
No. I meant to give it 2.5, but I saw. I know what happened. I meant to give it 2.5, but I saw you gave it 3, and I was like, maybe I'm missing out on something, so I gave it 3.
So yeah, so I looked that up, and
Mm-hmm.
they somebody in the production crew found a snake in their cabin and kind of went through exactly what they did. I don't think it didn't say whether or not he killed the snake, but he was like, oh, this would be good for the movie. So they brought in a snake handler and did not tell him what they were going to do with the snake. And I don't know if he told all the actors what was going to happen or if he just told the guy with the machete, but the kid who uses the machete kills the snake. And I don't know if this is true because I didn't rewind and turn it up and try to listen for this, but somebody said that in the article I was reading about it, they said that if you isolate the audio and turn it up, you can hear the snake handler like freaking out in the background because like what a horrible thing to do.
And they had
like,
to hold him back, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what the article said. And then it also said that since then some of the actors have shown remorse for what happened.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course. Like, what?
Yeah, you killed
an
something
animal.
on set.
For the
That's
record,
awful.
animal abuse
Big thumbs down.
Is not okay
Big thumbs
in
down.
movies.
Yeah,
Like,
no. Yeah, that should be something that everyone should know, I feel like. And then you started talking about a bunch of movies that have like killed animals. There was one that killed 3 horses for that movie.
Yeah, Suspected. It's called Heaven's Gate.
Oh, right, Suspected. Yes.
Yeah, they allegedly killed several horses in making of the movie. I don't even think it's a horror movie.
Yeah,
like
no.
I think it's about
sounds
I
more
think
like a
it's cult
history type
movie.
thing. Oh, never mind.
Maybe I don't know, but regardless,
Yeah.
don't kill
unimportant.
animals for your movies.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like that should
for
be
real?
obvious. You don't need to kill anything to provide
I
entertainment
mean, like
for people.
I understand like snakes are rodents or whatever, but it's
Right.
like, first of all, this snake wasn't a rodent.
Yes.
You had a snake handler bring it in.
Yeah.
And second of all, there's a difference in like killing a dangerous animal that's in your
Right.
house,
Yeah.
which this was not. It was a
Yeah,
gardener
it was-
snake,
yes.
is what it looked like. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a snake expert, but like, and I mean, if there's a rattlesnake crawling across your floor and you chop its head off, like, okay, like I get it. Like
Yeah,
I
that's a
can
real life
understand that you were in
circumstance.
danger, but
Yeah.
this was staged and pretty gross.
Right. It's so sad, and it's it did not need to happen. There was nothing
Yeah.
that added to the plot.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, not even the scene. Like the scene didn't either.
Yeah.
okay, we just watched The Thing. You could have done that with practical effects.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
we still have some
there was
really awesome practical
no
effects.
reason for that to happen.
Absolutely. And isn't The Thing older than... Is it older or is it...
No, I think it's the same year, actually.
Never mind.
I think they're both 1980.
Actually, that does sound right. Okay. But, like, yeah, that's a good example because they had great practical effects. It's like, come on. If you wanted to kill something... Make it not a real thing. Make it not, just make it.
Oh, I mean, make it not a real thing. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I didn't see where you were going there.
But seriously, don't make it a real living thing that has a life and could be someone's pet.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Other than snake murder.
Sorry.
Friday the 13th. It's decent.
Yeah.
Now, this movie did not need to spawn 11 sequels or whatever it did.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But so Mrs. Voorhees again is the bad guy.
She's
and then
so good.
At the end of the movie, the final girl, Alice, has pushed her way out in a canoe and she wakes up and sees the cops, and then this little boy, who we assume is Jason, jumps out of the water and pulls her into the water. And then she wakes up in the hospital. The cops say they dragged her out, and she's like, "Well, did you catch the little boy? Like,
is he dead?
Was there too."
Yeah.
And they're like, "We found you in the water, and we didn't see him at all." So, and it kind of leaves it a little ambiguous because you see her get the cops' attention not in the water.
Yes.
And the second one does this at the end too, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But leaves it kind of ambiguous and open, and she even ends it with, "He's still out there," or something like that.
Yes, exactly. I want to talk about how she was like such a side character until she was the final girl, and then she made the dumbest decisions I think I've ever seen in a horror movie. It was like back and forth.
She would go like really smart thing, really dumb thing, really smart thing, really dumb thing.
So infuriating. I was literally I was like shouting at the TV. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Like she barricaded a door that opens the other direction.
Way,
like, that doesn't help.
That doesn't help. What are you doing?
And then she needed to get out of that door, so then she had to unbarricade it and run. The smartest thing she did do was decapitate Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah, that was pretty smart. Actually, one more time. Actually, out of all the like deaths of like killing like an antagonist in a movie, in a horror movie specifically, beheading them, so smart, because then they can't come back to life.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, unless it's like a zombie, but like that's only some lore, and like, you know, might as well try.
Right. Yeah.
But,
no,
like,
that's a good point.
Her.
But she does like slice her at one point and then runs away.
Yes.
And then tries to get away and then doesn't for some reason. Yes. I don't remember. Like,
she slices her and then like knocks her out, and it's like,
and then runs away.
Yes, it's like, okay, now finish her off. Like, I hate to be that person, but finish her off. And then she's like, and then she just like walks away.
Yeah, or like at least tie her up or something.
Please.
Like, do something to her to make it so that she doesn't come back.
Something I loved about Mrs. Voorhees was that she would like talk to herself, but like as Jason.
Yep.
That was I love it when, because then it's like
very obvious there's something
like,
mentally wrong.
What's going on with her? Like, is she possessed by Jason? Did Jason ever exist? Is this just a woman that's kind of lost her mind and parts of herself? You know, it's like, what is really going on here? And I guess we don't really ever get answers to what exactly happened to her, because as we go into the second one, like, we find out Jason is alive. So it's like, what really happened there?
Yeah, so I what my best guess is that Jason drowned in the lake, or at least that's what everyone thought, and then somehow got out of the lake at some point and has just been living in the woods.
Sure.
Like they mentioned that he is mentally handicapped.
Right.
So it's possible that he could have somehow like got out of the water and then just didn't
but it
know
seems like him and her have been in contact, because he's obviously been obsessed with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, as we see in the second movie, he's kind of like, it's obvious that he's been around her.
I think honestly it's just a little bit of like well, we're making a movie and
we
we're
need
not
to do
we're not really
things,
gonna
yeah.
explain it.
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
Like,
that makes sense.
and honestly, it's a slasher movie. Like, it's
It
an
doesn't
80s
really
slasher
need to-
movie. I don't
yeah,
really need to know exactly
the
every
part,
detail,
the like
but
puzzle part of my brain that loves
yeah,
doing
no,
puzzles is
I'm
like,
with
what's
you. It
going
doesn't.
on?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't fit. It's a little
Yeah.
strange. I mean, it seems like maybe there is something supernatural
Right.
going on, but it never like addresses it or says
Yeah,
it for
sure.
sure. And like Jason is in the lake at the end,
Mm-hmm.
but also
But
is
isn't he like a
actually in the
child
lake?
in the lake? He's
Yeah,
like
that's why I said I
what-
don't know how many years it's been since he's drowned.
It's so
Like,
confusing to me because it's
so
like,
it seems like maybe he's undead,
I guess,
but then he grows up for part 2.
right?
Like,
True.
So it's definitely confusing.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone out there is a Friday the 13th lore expert.
Yes.
Not the franchise for
Yeah.
me to be a lore expert
Yeah.
of.
This is more of a franchise that you watch just because you like horror movies, and then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I don't need to. There's a lot of
This
things
is-
in it that are like, that didn't really need to
Yeah,
be in the movie,
right.
and like,
It's definitely like a slumber party movie.
yes,
you know?
definitely,
It's
yes,
like,
absolutely.
we're not taking this movie seriously. It's kind of on in the background, but
Mhm.
also like there's a few parts that we're gonna like cheer for the killer or whatever, however you
Yeah.
feel about the movie kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
but that was part 1.
Yes. Let's talk about part
Part
2
2.
now. Okay, part 2. We start again opening in the same small town. I don't know what the name is. Given the knowledge that another camp is about to be opened for the summer, just a few yards away from the Camp Crystal Lake. Yet again, counselors who have arrived early to prepare for the campers begin disappearing out of the blue, but this time not so unnoticed. So
But we have a cold open right before that.
right.
So
It is-
it's
right,
Alice. She's the final girl from episode 1. She
Mhm.
is moved what seems like away or moved out at
She's
least.
moved out,
She's
yeah,
moved out.
definitely.
She's still kind of in the area, it seems
Mhm.
like, and she's at home alone, and I mean the scene is just ridiculously long.
Yeah.
Jason kills her. Like
Yeah.
that's when we
Yeah.
when we see Jason. And then we find out later in the movie that apparently he took her body. 'Cause
Right. Yes,
she's missing and there's
yes.
blood everywhere, but
That's
she wasn't
right.
pronounced dead.
Right.
Which we find out when the camp director is telling all the camp counselors the horror story.
Mhm.
So they also run into the same opposition from the locals saying like you shouldn't do this.
Mhm.
It's too close to camp blood.
Right.
Like don't open this camp at all.
Mhm.
And this seems like maybe a new camp
Yeah.
has been built or
Well,
something.
I think what it is that it is an old camp, and it seems like the specific camp, like
the
how
director.
like there's camps with names. It seems like
Oh,
this guy has had this particular camp before, but
Oh,
this
in,
is
like,
a
other
new
places.
location.
Right.
That's what it seemed like to me. Because
Yeah, I don't know how old the camp is. I don't know if they built it or if it's
Yeah,
if it had
no,
been
I
there,
think
but-
it's definitely old because they talk about the maintenance and like how it's not totally
yeah,
running,
that's
and
true.
like they're waiting for the power to come on.
right.
But I remember that the police officer says to the leader, like, I appreciate what you've been doing and like how you've helped people and stuff, but this needs to
Right.
like maybe not happen. I do want to give a big shout out to Ralph in these movies. He's such a... Do you remember who that is? He's the guy that's kind of
yeah.
like... Everyone thinks he's like kind of crazy, but he tried so hard to help them.
Yeah, well,
he's
he's
trying.
the old guy that's
Yes.
on the side of the road that's like, beware, like, don't
bike,
go,
yes.
yeah, and then he gets on his bike and just rides away, which is so funny. And poor Ralph is not going to make it through this
Yeah,
movie.
which is
He's
so
going to
sad.
die. And he was just trying to save people.
It's
It's
so
actually kind of the
sad.
saddest part of the
I
movie.
know it is. It's like, why did he have
With
to die?
Part 2, we get a much bigger cast.
Yeah.
A lot more counselors. It was like a small handful in the first one.
Yeah.
But this one, there's like 10 or 15 counselors. And like 7 or 8 of them just get no screen time
Yeah,
at all. Like they come up with a kind of creative way, I guess.
Yeah.
Not creative, just
But
they come
just,
up
like,
with a way
they-
to get rid
yeah,
of them.
Definitely.
So basically the camp
Mhm.
and someone, we're getting a perspective shot. Someone is stalking them.
Yeah.
We don't know who it is. Weird things start happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're there for a night and nothing major has happened. Honestly, a lot of nothing kind of happens in this movie.
Definitely.
It's much more like about them building a camp. If you didn't know it was a horror movie, you would think that the movie is literally just about them building a camp.
Summer
like
fun,
that's all it is.
There's a lot of girls changing in this movie, which was so unnecessary.
80s.
If they took all of those scenes out, do you know how long this movie would be? It would be 10 minutes shorter. It was just so much.
That's what I mean. There was just like nothing happened.
Yes, exactly.
It's
like they had to fill it with things like
ridiculous, like pointless things like that in the movie.
There was another thing that I wanted to talk about, which was they kept doing this like first person perspective thing where it was like they did that in the first movie. It's great. I love it. But they did it not as Jason sometimes.
Right, it was other
Which
characters.
was what really bothered me. If they had done it like once, I would be like fine, but they did it like 4 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, now how are we going to know if it's Jason or not?
And it seemed like they wanted a bigger cast because none of the characters are very strong.
Yeah, definitely.
And the strongest characters are the main ones, the camp director and his girlfriend, the child psychologist. They don't get enough screen time.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Because there's this big cast and they're too busy like focusing on these teenage counselors that are just sleeping together at camp, apparently. And it's like, this is not
so unnecessary.
This is not what we want to see. Like, give us like good characters and good stories.
Exactly.
And honestly, the second one is not near as good as the first one. And
I think I liked it more than you did. I didn't
you did rate it higher.
I did not hate it, to be honest, but it's like one and done.
Oh no, we both rated it the same. We both gave it 2 stars.
Okay.
And it's like I don't know, it wasn't that great.
It wasn't genius.
There was a couple scenes. There was some creative kills.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the couple that was
that was
sleeping together that got speared to each other to the bed.
That was something else.
And they don't really like flesh out Jason's character in this either, which I understand why, because they kind of wanted to make this like murder mystery like the first one. I feel like in the third one when they kind of hit their stride of Jason is Jason because he's Jason and he's gonna kill people. But in this one, they're still kind of doing like murder mystery kind of thing. And it's just not what you want out of this movie.
Right.
Like if you're watching a slasher movie, you're watching a movie that is probably not going to be that good. It's going to be a little funny and it's going to be really gory. And that's why you're watching it.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just left a lot to be desired for me.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they clearly did not understand what direction they wanted to go with Jason.
Yeah.
Because he's just like wearing regular clothes and a potato sack over his head. Like, it's not the iconic Jason that we get until the third one, which is actually really interesting to me. I don't think that. I mean, imagine if Scream had a different ghost face in 1 and 2.
It would be so like I feel like it wouldn't have become as successful, if they.
I for sure agree with that when it comes to Scream, because Ghostface is like
exactly.
I think part of the reason it was able to still be a success and why we see Jason as like hockey mask Jason is because of the first person point of view,
definitely.
Like the murder mystery type thing that they're trying to do. Very like Christmas, Bloody Christmas vibes almost. I don't know who started the first person killer perspective. I'd be kind of interested to find that out. But they definitely lean on this a little too hard in this movie. And then we'll eventually get to the later Friday the 13th movies, maybe next Friday the 13th. But I have a feeling that changes going forward and it just becomes basic
not as
slasher kind of thing.
Definitely. Can we talk about how smart Ginny, who's the child psychologist, is?
Yeah.
It was like, there were some moments where it was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Same as Alice in the first one, where it's like, you're being so dumb right now. But that's part of a good slasher.
Definitely. Well, and it's believable. Like, because there are some characters that are like every single thing that they do. Like I said it on the last episode, I think it was. It's the Allstate ad where it's like, where they're all talking about what to do, and they're like, why don't we go hide behind the chainsaws? And the one character's like, there's a running fire. And they're like, chainsaws. And they're like, let's go do that kind of thing. There is that in horror movies, and that is just ridiculous and stupid. And it's poor writing is the reason for it. But then there's other bad decisions that are just natural, and you can understand why they made those decisions. Like fight or flight has kicked in. You are not thinking things through. Like, I know I've mentioned this on the podcast, but it's the whole hello thing when you hear a noise. Like, you hear a noise in your house and you're like, hello? Like, who is in my house? Like, because it's probably someone you know. And that one gets harped on way too much for a really dumb decision. But it's like, no, that's a pretty normal thing to do.
Yeah,
like, you have probably done that quite a few times in your life.
Absolutely.
But with Alice, we definitely got a lot of, oh my gosh, this is so stupid decisions. And then with Ginny, we got a much smarter character.
Yeah, definitely.
Which again is why I would have liked to have more screen time with her.
She was so awesome.
We didn't mention it. The staff is like, the director's like, one more night out on the town. Who wants to go?
Right.
And they go out to a bar. So I guess they're not teenagers.
Yeah,
I guess they're like
they're not
20-year-old, 20-something.
They're in their
because
20s.
they're drinking.
Yeah.
So I hope they're not teenagers.
Yes.
But so they're out, and that's where half of them stay.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Ginny and the director go back.
Basically, all the ones,
and then all the other ones that were just there
that
to
are just
like
there to
be
fill
bodies.
space.
Yeah, exactly. Just like stay
They're
there.
just
and
there
it's like,
at the bar.
I'm really curious if if any of those characters pop back up at any point in the franchise.
I bet there's a character in this movie that looks like Linguini from Ratatouille to me.
Yes.
I do not know his name.
He's kind of the
dorky character,
right.
Like the comedy. I think I would be interested to see if he comes up again.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't think his character is strong enough to come back, but he was like at parts he was almost a bigger role than Ginny was.
Yeah.
No,
he definitely was. Yeah, I'm curious to see how many Friday the 13th movies take place at Camp Crystal Lake or near Camp Crystal Lake. Because you would think after this happens twice and they didn't catch the killer, that you would think that people would stop opening camps there. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see how they explain where Jason goes.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason lost in New York.
Lost in New York.
It's not that's not the official title, but that is the best title.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing that one.
Yes.
or Friday the 13th, Part 10, Jason goes to space.
How excited I am for that. I can't wait to watch that for the first time.
Yeah, it's I'm sure we will have lots more Friday the 13th to talk about at some point on this podcast, but
I just wanted to mention like how, like I said, Ginny was so smart, but especially in that one scene.
The final one?
Yeah, that was
so
incredible.
She's running through the woods and she comes across this cabin, which we're all pretty sure Jason is living in at this point because we've seen it a few times. Right. And she goes into this room, and so the sheriff went into the room earlier and was like shocked, but we didn't get to see what he was so shocked about before he died. And then Ginny goes in and we see he has his mom's head on an altar. And he has like her sweatshirt there. Her sweater there. Like, I'm so confused by how he has any of this.
Yeah.
Like, he must have literally like pulled Alice into the water in the first one and like ran over to his dead mom and like took this stuff. And then the cops were just like, well, we don't have her head, and
it's
for some reason she's not wearing a shirt. So like, well, she's dead. Like, put her in the back. Like, I'm so confused. Like, again,
definitely
it's a movie. They wanted to do something, and they did it. Like,
they said, screw that last movie. We're gonna do what we want to do.
But Ginny takes Miss Voorhees' sweater and puts it on. Yeah. And Jason comes through, and she like starts talking to him as if she's Mrs. Voorhees. Yeah. And it works.
So smart.
And then last second, Jason figures it out and they fight a little bit more.
They duke it out.
Then the director comes back because he got in a fight with Jason, but I guess Jason didn't kill him.
Right, yes.
And then the director comes in, and then the director, what is his name?
His name is... What?
It's like
Paul.
Paul, that's right.
I wrote Pat. So I was like, that's not him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Paul.
Yeah, it is Paul.
So Ginny and Paul like go back to the camp, and they're like, well, we're safe now. Police are on the way. And then Jason comes through the window, and then it cuts to her on a stretcher, like freaking out about Jason.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think the intention is that she was having like a hallucination, which I think is what they kind of try and push at the end of Friday the 13th Part 1.
What do you mean? Like she was having a hallucination?
So when Jason comes through the window,
yeah,
right, when they're both sitting on the bed and Jason comes through the window, like he doesn't actually come through the window.
I totally think he does.
But then what happens to him? Like they kill him again? Because it cuts immediately when he comes through that window.
I think that we're not really supposed to know because
that's what I mean. I feel like
she had more injuries on her person than she did before he came through the window.
Yeah, I'm not sure because then she's like on the stretcher and she's like strapped down and she
has like a neck brace on. I think.
Out about but she's like tossing and freaking out about Jason, and I think the point they're trying to make is like, did that really happen? Like, who knows?
But then she says, like, is Paul okay? Is Paul okay? So I think it did happen because she's obviously concerned for Paul at this point, and like honestly, I know that there's probably no rhyme or reason, but Jason would probably go for Paul before he went for her because he had intended to kill Paul before he intended to kill her.
I see what you're saying, and I don't know if we see Paul at the end.
We don't see him.
Interesting.
So that's why I think that's happening. I think what you're saying is really a good point, though. How it's like maybe it is a hallucination.
Definitely leave it a little ambiguous.
Yeah, definitely.
End. Like, and that's another thing with a slasher movie. It's like I don't really need that out of a slasher
why?
film,
Why do you do that?
Like,
I just want to know.
Ending Black Christmas with the killer in the attic still and no one finding him, like that's great.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what happened, and it's scarier that way.
Definitely.
I feel like it's scarier if you know what happens and you know like, oh, like he's
for sure.
He's still out there for sure. You know, he's coming back to kill more people. It's. Now, so we mentioned how the first one shouldn't have spawned off all the sequels.
Yeah.
The second one definitely should have.
Yeah.
I understand why the second one was made. They wanted to make it about Jason.
Right.
But once they made that movie, I mean, clearly it did well at the box office.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's like, if you include Freddy versus Jason, I think there's like 11 or 12 Friday the 13th movies, including the reboot or remake.
Yeah.
I'm still a little unsure if it's a true remake or if it's just if they picked up in the storyline at some point. So, but that's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is one more thing to say about the second one, and that is that there were no animals killed in the making of it.
So
there
true.
is a dead animal on screen, but it is not real.
It is not a real animal. We hope.
Yeah, we hope. I guess we didn't
based
look
off
it
the
up,
track
but...
record, I did look it up.
Okay.
And I didn't find anything.
Okay.
Based off the track record, little unsure, but probably didn't kill any animals.
Didn't kill any animals. Yeah.
So that's a win.
Yeah,
Anytime
absolutely.
you don't kill an animal in a movie,
gets a thumbs up from us.
That's
absolutely.
So, well, happy Friday the 13th, everyone.
Yay!
Watch the movie tonight.
Enjoy your spooky time.
If not, I mean, it's January. It's snowy.
Right,
Go watch The Thing.
Yeah. Watch something at least.
Watch Dead Snow. Yeah, it's Friday the 13th. You gotta watch something. Come on. It's spooky. It's spooky night.
Yeah.
So,
spooky night.
Yeah, we will be back in a couple weeks. Back to our semi-regular schedule.
Yeah, right.
Until it becomes irregular again.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got.
Yeah, have a spooktacular Friday the 13th. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Slay.